Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming along. It's great to be here in the Big Apple after many years. My wife is pulling me along the street. She's saying, "Come on, come on." I'm like hypnotized by the whole thing. But I love the cities. I was born in the heart of Dublin City. But it's great to be here. And like Emily said, the book is about my life in the slums of Dublin. And from there, my family kind of crumbles, and I end up in a really tough, really awful orphanage. And but it's not all misery. There's a lot of fun, and a lot of scallywag shenanigans and blackguardism and the kind of things that 800 boys would do to get by in a crazy institution. And so I'm going to do a little bit of reading, hopefully, if I can get the right glasses on in time. And so I'll be doing a bit of reading and a bit of singing. And like Emily said, my book sprung from my songs. And the songs came first, and the songs probably do a really good job. So you're going to get a little bit of a song, and you're going to get a little bit of me reading, and I might even make up some stuff along the way. So you never know. Okay, so the book has two voices. It's the adult, that's me, and the little boy who's doesn't know what's going on, and the adult doesn't actually know what's going on either. Still doesn't. And so the little boy is like kind of lost in real time. Things are happening to him in real time, stream of consciousness. And the adult has the reflective, retrospective point of view. So I wanted the reader to have both perspectives. Me as a together dude, and me as a lost little six-year-old boy. So I'm going to take you into the prologue of the book now, and this is the adult. I was born in the heart of Dublin City, in the same old one-bedroom tenement flat where my granny, 18 years before, gave birth to my ma, where the rats, emboldened by my poor marksmanship, would saunter over to the rug beneath the dining table, and finding no crumbs again, would dine where they left off last time, on the rug itself, where the wooden shelves from cupboards and scullery, promoted like that rug, to a station never intended by their makers, were chopped up for kindling with bread knife and rolling pin. Where a ma, at night, with Guinness and without da, would sing for my two younger sisters and I by that little fire. Her dark, beautiful voice, so filled with emotion, and sometimes she'd scare you. With eyes darting nervously around the room, following the shadows cast by the flames, we'd forget the hunger and the cold as the deep river of her voice held us like boats in the night. Life was hard and turbulent, often violent, but always, always colourful. Later there was the drab housing estate in Rathfarnham, where events too awful for words spun our already unstable world completely out of control. And later still, there was the orphanage, the now infamous Artane Industrial School, where the laser malice of the Christian Brothers would imbue those earlier memories of Green Street with a haunted nostalgia they really shouldn't hold. In Artane, the blessing of music captured my soul. Running like a crystal river through the dark ancient corridors of that harsh institution, it fought for my heart, even as events hardened it. "Where are you now, my friend?" it would say to me often. Even after leaving the orphanage, as I fought desperately not to be defined by my past, as I buried it beneath my career and my quest for musical excellence, I felt music herself plead with me to slow it down and start to feel what's really going on inside of me. And that's where this story begins. The night music took me across half a century of avoidance to face the lost child within me. In an ancient log cabin in the mountains of North Carolina, I found him that cold December night in a song. A song I never wanted to write, and a story I never wanted to tell. But it came out all on its own one night. I was sitting tinkling on the piano, a bit fed up with my career, fed up with everything. And so when I get like that, I just sit down by the keyboard or my guitar, and I just start to play chords. And before I knew what was happening, out came this song, almost totally written. 800 voices echo across the grey playground, shouts of fights and God knows what. I still can hear that sound, with their hobnail boots and rough tweed, angry seas of brown and green. The toughest God-forsaken bunch that I'd ever seen. I'll be back for you this Christmas, I can hear my mammy say, and the bitter truth within that lie I've yet to face today. When it gets too much for feeling, you just bury it somehow. And that 8-year-old abandoned lad still waits for her right now. Thank you. Thank you. So that was the song that started it, and that last couple of lines that I sang there were really the whole impetus of the whole book and the whole song cycle that I wrote before I wrote the book. And it was like, I'm writing away and I'm singing the song, and it was like, and that 8-year-old abandoned lad still waits for her right now, and that just kind of. That just really kind of got me, because I wasn't expecting that. That wasn't like a lyric. It's not a lyric that I would, intend to write. The kind of some 8-year-old abandoned lad inside me. And so the book really is about the adult going back into his past to find out what went wrong. How many times we all ask ourselves, well, what happened to me? Where did it go south? And so the book is about that, and the book is about me as an adult going back. And one of the things I've done with the book is I've divided it up into 3 parts, into thirds. And the first third of the book is about Dublin City and the slums of Dublin and the characters who surrounded my life. Dublin was a really colourful place in the 50s. And there's lots of colour, lots of shenanigans, and lots of blackguard stuff, And so one of the characters in Dublin who was very dear to me was a fellow called Larry O'Toole. And Larry had a horse and cart, and he would deliver vegetables. And so here we go. I'm into the kid's voice now. So Larry's horse, Shane, a noble golden animal, looked like Roy Rogers' Trigger. He would eat oats gently from my hand and grace the cobblestones with steaming manure that smelled like the countryside. And I'm going to have to put my proper glasses on to read this, because I knew the prologue by heart, you see. That's not in the book, that little bit there. So I always knew what Larry was thinking. He had a way of looking at you that didn't need words to make his point. Larry inspired a trust rare in Smithfield. Sometimes he lets me ride with him on his rounds and help him with his deliveries. How I loved the lazy amble through the Dublin streets, the bikes, the buses, the cars, the drunks, and the newspaper boys. All the traffic policemen know Larry, and they salute as Shane passes by, chewing his oats from his nosebag. Larry sits easily, a cigarette dangling from his lips, his right eye half closed, squinting from the smoke, one hand in the pocket of his brown Carton Brothers overalls, and the other holding the reins between his nicotine-stained fingers. The hand in the pocket often fingered sweets he'd chuck back at me from time to time as I sat in the back on a sack amongst the eggs, the fruit, and the vegetables. Love vegetables. All this week, Larry's deliveries have taken us south across the Liffey, and I'm getting to know the city and all the little shops really well. The dogs are always barking at Shane, who never even bats an eyelid. I get mad though. Feck off, you mangy old mongrels. But Shane won't even look at them. It's a great thing to be able to do, you know. Ignore stuff. Larry knows how to ignore things too. Earlier today, during a delivery, when I asked him, "Does your mammy cry all the time like my mammy?" he just continued writing in his little notebook, licking his pencil till his lips and tongue were black. I wish I could do that. If I could, maybe next time Ma asks me where I got the tin soldier I stole from someone, I'll just squint my eyes like Larry and keep looking at my soldier like she wasn't even there. But I couldn't manage that to save my life. When Ma asks me a question, I'm answering even before I know it. And the next thing I know, I'm getting my ears boxed. Maybe only grown-ups know how to ignore things. Maybe it takes practice. Okay then, let's see if I can do it. Now as the cart crawls up Georgia Street, I'm sitting waiting for Larry to say something to me so I can ignore him. But he doesn't say a word, not for ages. Then he makes the sign of the cross as we pass by a little chapel on our right, and I see my chance. I ask, "Why do people bless themselves when they pass a church, Larry?" "Ah, sure, it's a sign of respect for God's Son, who lives in there." Great. I completely ignore him and look away behind me at a bus. But Larry doesn't even notice that I'm ignoring him. Shite. It's very frustrating when people ignore the fact that you're ignoring them, isn't it? Okay, I get it. People only notice you're ignoring them when you don't answer their questions. So he has to ask me a question. Now the question is, how can I get him to ask me a question so I can ignore him properly like a grown-up? After a while I say, "Larry, you'll never guess what time me ma came home last night." Larry sighs wearily, looks at me kindly for a long while, squints his eye from the cigarette in his mouth, and completely ignores me. Now, how the hell did he do that? I give up. When we stop at the next shop, Larry rubs my head roughly and says, "Don't try to grow up too quick, son. There's plenty in your world to keep you busy for a bit yet." The shopkeeper is happy to see us, and the pocket full of sweets he gives me keep me occupied on the jaunt home. I count and sort them out into little bunches for my own little deliveries later on, to me friends on Green Street, Jono, Jemser, his sister, Sheila, Gunnar I, Paddywhack, and if I'm in a really good mood, me sisters. All right, you can clap now. Thank you very much. So around this time, actually during this time, my father was in America looking for work. And I never knew why somebody would have to go somewhere and look for work, you know. Because I once heard my ma say to me dad, she said, if there was work in that bed, you'd sleep on the floor. So I never saw him sleeping on the floor. So I knew work couldn't be in the bed. But work, it seems, was in America, because that's where my dad was. And he was there for a year and a couple of months. And the next thing is, my ma gives birth to 2 twins. And that was the end of that part of my life. I remember the storm when the twins were born, 'cause me dad had been gone for a year. Now he'd set sail for America's shores, saving up to bring us there. But the birth of the boys tore the family apart in a scattering wind of shame. I was much too young to understand, and much too young to blame. So now we have me and my two sisters and the two twins, we call them, which is not grammatically correct, but in Ireland, it works, you know. Where's the two twins? And so the twins stayed with us for a while. I mean, Ma kind of trundled on bravely, but she really couldn't handle it anymore. And next thing we know, the twins are gone. We come home from school one day, and the twins are gone. And that was awful because, you know, we loved the twins, and, you know, I played with them all the time. And, you know, you get close to your siblings, you know. I have to remember that because the distance has gone so far that, you know, you forget that once you were close to things. You know, when I was writing the book, I had to remember just how close I was, because when things go wrong, you bury it. You know, things go wrong, you just kind of get over it and you grow up. You know, and somehow maybe you bury a part of your soul too. I don't know. But anyway, so then we moved to Rathfarnham, which was an awful part of Dublin City. And one day I came home from school and my sisters were gone. And so my ma was crying and she was really upset. She wouldn't tell me why or what had happened to the girls. She went straight up to bed and crawled into bed, and I crawled in behind her and fell asleep. And here we are now in the book the next morning, just before she sends me into the orphanage. And I need my good glasses for this. You have to excuse me. So Ma's very kind this morning. I slept like a kitten curled up around her, so different from the kicking legs and flailing arms of the girls. I tried to ask her about them a couple of times, but she just shakes her head. I'll tell you later, son, after breakfast. And what a breakfast it is. Eggs and sausages and rashers and toast, a big mug of tea with 3 heaping spoonfuls of sugar, all cooked and served up with such love and tenderness that even though I'm not a bit hungry, I gobble it all up, not wanting to spoil it for her. She won't hold my gaze for more than half a second, but in that half a second is all I've ever wanted to see in her eyes. Softness. Softer than I've ever seen her. So soft that her silences aren't really bothering me. Well, not much, anyway. She gets my nice khaki gabardine coat out, the one we got from the St. Vincent de Paul charity, and the nice shirt Aunt Deirdre got for my birthday. She hardly ever irons anything, but she's ironing that shirt now, taking the greatest of care with it, going over and over the sleeves and the collar. There's a button missing, and she sews one on, slow and careful. It's a bit of a different colour than the rest of the buttons, but she doesn't notice, and I don't tell her. She sews it on so well, it'll be there when the rest of the buttons have all died from old age. When she finishes tying my shoelaces, she stands back smiling. There's a handsome man, the spitting image of your dad you are. Where's the girls, Ma? And why am I getting all dressed up? Are we going to visit someone? I'll tell you everything later on, son. She bends down under her bed and picks up the little case where she keeps her makeup stuff. She empties it out on the bedspread. Lipstick and powder and puff, lotions and creams, the sweet-smelling bits and pieces of her beauty. I watched them all on the bed in a daze. They look so sweet and soft, but there's something funny happening in my stomach, and I can't shake it off. Maybe it's the food I eat. I'm not used to eating that much grub. She fills the case with my socks and my underpants, a shirt and a sweater, a few comics, and my old yo-yo that my sister Patricia never wanted to learn. And she closes the case. I'm going to get ready, son, so you go and play in your room for a little bit, and I'll be with you in a jiffy. So she takes me up the Malahide Road to the gates of the orphanage. And outside the gates of the orphanage, she bends down, and with the noise of the Malahide Road traffic behind her, she tells me that she has TB. And she has to leave me in this orphanage for a little bit, but that she'll be back for me at Christmas. And so, next thing I know, I'm on the playground with 800 screaming kids, absolutely petrified with fear. The noise and the sight of 800 lads running around, pulling one another up and down like rag dolls, scared the living be-japers out of me. So I'm standing in the middle of it all, petrified with fear. This young lad, about 9 or 10, gallops up to me. He's a cocky little fella, very sure of himself. But he's got a good look in his eye, and thank God, he's grinning. He starts to gallop around me in circles. I'm getting dizzy looking at him. And he reins his horse in, sticks his nose in my face, and he says, "You're a new lad, aren't you?" "Yes," said I. "How did you guess?" "I can see by the way you're standing there like a frozen duck." He says, "You better smarten your hump, lad, or somebody's going to smarten it for you." Then he winks, he says, "Go on. I'm only kidding you. Come on," says he, "let's go for a run." Off we go across the acre and a half of concrete playground, down there by the drinking fountains and up by the handball alley, and in through the great big outdoor shelter. As he runs, the metal heels on his hobnail boots is making this great horsey galloping sound. Kitty-cup, 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 kitty-cup. His name is Blocka, and I'm clinging onto him like a raft in a storm. We're ducking and diving and weaving in and out of games of ball and chase. And I might have said that before, but I don't know. So anyway, we become best friends, and he teaches me all the ropes. And next thing I know, I'm busy forgetting that I had a mother. The afternoon sun dips behind the ball alley. I'm kicking a ball that I stole from O'Malley. O'Malley, he got it from Bulger the bully, for a battered lead soldier he took from Mick Scully. Well, the skull got the soldier from Martin McKeown, for a champion chestnut as hard as a stone. And McKeown got the chestnut from Badger McGee, and that hooligan stole it from me. From pocket to pocket as fast as a rocket. Never mind where you got it from, no one will ask. They'll be yours for a minute, then someone will rob it, or you'll drop it or swap it along the tall grass. They're a bundle of fun, but they won't last long. They're the treasures of the sun. The treasures of the suns. Woo! This is I have a terrible thirst. So you know, in the school you try to make the best of things. And luckily for me, music moved into my life pretty quickly, in the shape of a fella. First of all, a fella called Tommy Bonner, and then the Artane Boys Band, which were very famous band, believe it or not, famous even in America. The orphanage was actually famous. It was, you remember the American orphanage called Boys Town? That was modeled on the model of Artane. And they regretted it later on, Boys Town did. They wrote about it, disassociating themselves from my orphanage. And so this fella, Tommy Bonner, sang in the choir. He was a champion boxer. And Tommy was a big, tough, really big lad, you know. And it was so amazing to see your hero singing so beautifully in church and opening up his heart and just letting himself feel all the things that we were desperately trying not to feel. So it gave us all permission to just to be lost little lads instead of tough little urchins, you know. So from the back of the church, on a Sunday morning, you'd hear, Kyrie, ele, Kyrie eleison. Forbidden to look round us in church. Today I have no choice. I have to see what kind of human being stood behind that angel voice. And in his eyes you saw the place where prayer first began. And you knew that God was listening when Tommy Bonner sang. Dark as any moonless night, clean as the morning dew. And he sang as if to save his life, while saving my life too. And I never got to know him at all, but I knew him just the same. You see, 'cause everybody knows you when you sing like Tommy sang. Then one April Sunday morning, early in the spring, I thought he must be sick with the flu or something, 'cause he didn't come to sing. And when the mass was over, my heart fell to the floor to hear that Tommy turned 16 and left the school, and he'd sing at Mass no more. At first I felt again abandoned, deserted and betrayed. It seemed that everything I loved would run and leave me here, lonely and afraid. But there and then a seed was planted, and God, I wish I'd felt back then just a small taste of the joy I'd come to find, trying to sing like Tommy sang. Hey, 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 dark as any moonless night, clean as the morning dew. And he sang as if to save his life, while saving my life too. And I never got to know that lad, but I knew him just the same. You see, 'cause everybody knows you. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows you when you sing like Tommy sang. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Thank you. Thank you. So after you've read the book, if you have any money left over, go online onto my website, which is on there, and you can order the CD and find out what started the whole thing. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's been great.
Thank you. On behalf of the Strand, thank you so much, Danny, for being with us this evening, and thank you all for coming as well.